Hmm. That was quite the interesting, odd, peculiar finish to that race. The sprint race just happened in Brazil. And it just had a really weird ending. There wasn't like a crash or anything between top contenders. There wasn't some weird last lap pass or something like Lando versus Max or something. It was just, I'll explain the situation. So basically, this whole sprint, for a good chunk of it at least, the top four were all within, 2.5, 3 seconds, let's call it. Piastri was giving Norris DRS the entire time so he could play defense against Leclerc and Verstappen. And then finally it got down to it. The McLarens were able to pull away. Leclerc and Verstappen were, fighting each other for third. Verstappen finally gets by. And at this point, McLaren has a 1.5, 2-second advantage over Verstappen. And the whole time, Piastri started on pole. Lando Norris, who is second in the Drivers' Championship right now, he's still mathematically got a shot at this championship. And if Verstappen and Red Bull continue to fall off, they could win this thing. It's a possibility, but it's still, they got to make up a lot of points. So, point being is that team orders come into play. At some point, Piastri is going to let Norris by. Norris is going to win the sprint, and he's guaranteed to gain on Verstappen, whether it's 1 point, 2 points, 3 points, whatever it may be. So, the point being is that when they were all close together, Piastri couldn't let Norris by because that would have compromised his own race. That would have allowed Leclerc to suddenly be right on his tail and potentially pass him. Verstappen, and, if they let him by at the wrong time, suddenly Piastri goes from first to fourth, and that's a big hit to McLaren in the constructors. So they had to wait for a gap to be built. So finally, the gap gets built on let's call it lap 15, 16 out of 24. And they don't do the swap right away, and I really don't know why. Here's my opinion on team orders. Here's my opinion. I don't like them in any way, shape, or form. I understand they happen in Formula One, and I got to live with it, and that's fine. But I think if you want to win, you should have to go up and earn it. I don't care if you're Lando Norris, Max Verstappen, Oscar Piastri, Charles Leclerc. I don't care if you're Joe Guan Yu in the back, Lance Stroll in the back. I don't care who it is. If you want a position, you shouldn't have to be told, your teammate's going to lay over for you. I'm not a fan of them. I wasn't a fan of it in Hungary. I wasn't a fan of it today. I've never been a fan of it. But that's how it goes. It's the fact of the matter, so you anticipate it coming. McLaren does not make the call immediately. They say, we're going to wait till the last lap. And in that instant, and I think many others are saying, why are they waiting? You've got plenty of opportunities to let this happen. Let Oscar Piastri pull over, let Norris by, and you'd still have a good gap back to third. Why wait? Why wait for a massive crash to happen in an instant red flag or an instant safety car, and you're locked in those positions, and that's it? Norris finishes second, Piastri first. Why would you risk that, is my question. And ultimately, it happened. But the thing that's weird is that it didn't instantly happen. This is what I find odd. Nico Hulkenberg has a problem with his car somewhere in the middle of the track, through all the twisty, turny parts, and he pulls off track. He realizes there's a problem. The team comes over the radio, tells him, pull over, the car's broken, and he's off the track. And it's a slower part of the track, so there's no, immediate risk to a high-speed crash, but it's still dangerous. It's still a dangerous situation with a car stalled out, sitting not far off the racing track, but it's not on the racing track, but it's still not far off. And 1 lap goes by, 2 laps go by, and nothing. There's yellow flags out for that part of the racetrack, like a local yellow, but there's no safety car. There's no virtual safety car. They took a couple of laps. And in this time, of course, McLaren saw that on their little TV computer, whatever they got up there, and they said, okay, do it now, do the swap now. And I was like, okay. And then finally, 2 laps later, they call a virtual safety car. And now Max Verstappen's under investigation. because at the end of the virtual safety car, Max Verstappen tried to time it out perfectly, tried to time it out that right when it went green, he'd have his time under the delta, and he'd be able to pass Oscar Piastri and get second. He mistimed it, but he did not make the pass on Piastri. He very well could have and probably gotten a penalty, but he decided to back off, let Piastri have the position, and he realized, okay, I jumped the gun a little bit too early, but he's under investigation, and Johnny Herbert is a steward again, so that's a guaranteed penalty. But anyways, on a serious note, it was just a really weird ending where you knew the team orders were coming. You knew at the end of the day, realistically, the finishing order would be Norris, Piastri, Verstappen, or maybe Norris, Verstappen, Piastri. But just, they waited. It's almost like, I'm all about a good conspiracy. There might not be one here. I might be overthinking it. It's just weird that they waited until after the swap to throw the caution, to throw the virtual safety car. They had 2 laps. McLaren waited almost a lap to do the swap, and they just waited until right after. I mean, not like the second after, but 15, 20 seconds after. It's a little bit weird. Once again, there's probably nothing to it. I'm probably overthinking it, but it's weird. But anyways, despite the weirdness, despite the odd and peculiar finish, here's your results. Lando Norris is your winner. Second place, Oscar Piastri, max points day for McLaren. Great for them in extending their Constructors' Championship lead. Lando Norris gains 2 whole points on Verstappen and the drivers. Speaking of Max Verstappen, he finishes 3rd. For now, if there's a penalty, if it's a 5-second penalty, he would end up 4th, losing 1 more point. But for now, there you go. Max Verstappen in 3rd. Leclerc 4th, Sainz 5th, 6th Russell, 7th Gasly, 8th Perez. Those are your point scores. So, yeah, nothing really crazy happened in the sprint, but it was just weird situations that happened, I guess. Will Max Verstappen get a penalty? I'll update you in the comments if he does. But just, once again, really weird. They waited a long, long time to call the virtual safety car for Nico Hulkenberg's dead Haas on the side of the road. It's just weird. So, thanks for watching this video. I hope you enjoyed it. Tomorrow, we got the main event, the Brazilian Grand Prix, or the Sao Paulo Grand Prix, whatever they officially call it now. We got the Xfinity race at Martinsville later this afternoon. And then tomorrow, we got the NASCAR Cup Series race at Martinsville. We will know all 3 championship fours in about, let's call it 30, 32 hours. It's an estimation.